Good morning everyone. This is going to be a tutorial series on how to get any character into the other side. As you can see, this character is already rigged, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to delete the rig. If when you delete the rig this happens, it's just because there's a skill problem, so the better way to do that is to first right click the character, parent, clear parent and transform, and then you just want to go right click again with the character selected, convert to mesh, and that's just gonna make sure it's not attached to this anymore. So now when I delete this, nothing happens. We have the character where it is and everything's almost ready. The first thing we want to do is prepare our model. You can't just rig a model straight away. You need to make sure it's prepared and it's ready to be rigged. So there's a few things we need to check. First of all, we want to make sure that the character is centered. What centered means is that the center of the body mass, the very center of the character, is in line with the world. So you can see generally the center of the character is in the world. Sure, the bits come back, but it's all generally central. And that's all to the world origin, and that's just going to help everything going forward. The second thing to check is that your character is in a good pose. You want the character to have a symmetrical pose, preferably in a T pose or an A pose. Next thing, we just want to check the topology. If your character has bad or rough topology, then it's always going to look a bit strange when it's rigged. Ideally you want tris or quads, but you want them to look neat. So like, for instance, this is a good looking model. Everything kind of looks nice. You can see there's like rows of these squares with a cut through the middle of it. This is actually quite good topology. Okay, so as long as your topology is okay, and really the main thing you want to look for is the density. All these squares are roughly the same size. The tail's a little bigger, but that's fine because that's all one part. But generally everything's around about the same size, looks neat and tidy, looks clean. This is good. Okay, step 2. If your character, like this character did, had a rig before, you want to make sure that there's no data left from that original rig. So as you can see here, if I select the rig and we come down to the green triangle here, so that's going to bring up the data properties for this mesh. And here we can see there's a lot of vertex groups already on the character. These are from the original rig, so we want to make sure that these are removed before we start. You may also have some shape keys on your rig here. You also want to make sure they're removed. An easy way to make sure the shape keys are removed is convert to mesh. So right click, convert to mesh, and that's going to remove those. And to remove the vertex groups, you want to tab into edit mode, go to vertex, go down to vertex groups, and then remove. You can remove from all, but that's not going to remove them. You want to vertex groups, remove all groups, and now that's empty. Perfect. The last thing we need to check is our scale and rotation. So if your character is like this, or just not correct in a good place, or if it's way too big or too small, you should be checking these before you rig. If you're not used to Blender, a really easy way to check if you're at a good scale is to add in a cube. By default, cubes are 2 meters tall, so this is 1 meter. So the cubes are 2 meters tall, so I get a good idea now of how big my character is. An average human's just less than 2 meters tall, so this is a good size. And to ensure that everything's going to work correctly, we need to also, even though the scale looks correct, we need to make sure it's set correctly. So if I press the N to open my properties, my transforms panel, if that doesn't pop up, you just need to go to item on the side panel here. And that's going to bring up your transforms, and we can see that these are 0, or they're -0, we'll just set them to 0, 0, that's great. But we see here the scale is 0.01, so if I set it to 1, you can see that, okay, the character is really big, like we had before. So what we need to do is select the character. We need this number to be 1, so we need to apply the scale here. So we select the character, press Ctrl and A, and press scale. And now it's set to 1, perfect. The character is ready for rigging. Now that you've got your character prepared, let's start to rig. You will need the 3 add-ons that are in the documentation. I will link them below, and I will link the documentation below as well. The first add-on is called Game Rig Tool. This is generally an amazing add-on in general. Like, really, this is going to help you if you want to do a lot with your 3D characters and stuff. This is amazing. So we have a bunch of stuff here going on in the documentation. You can read through that, but what you want to start is just by initiating the mannequin, and that's going to bring in this rig. If you're not used to rigs, it's going to confuse you, it's going to look scary, it's going to be a little annoying, but that's because the way this add-on is working is it uses 3 rigs to achieve the final result. So you can see here there's a list. You've got the tweak, deform, and unreal. So actually, if we if we hover over these, this is select, disable, and isolate, or select rig. So if I just want to view one of these, I can click the circle, and then I can just see one, and then I can see this one, and then I can see this one. This is the final rig we want, and these other 2 are to get us to that rig. So the way it starts is we just solo the tweak rig, because that's the only one we need right now. You want to go into front view mode. I press 1 on the numpad for that. You just want to go into this isometric view. So you might want to start saying, okay, the leg's down here, I'm going to move the leg here, I'm going to move the arm down to the arm, and then I'm going to move the neck to the... This is wrong. This is not a good way to do it. The best way to do it is select all the bones that move things, so you've got to find them. So this moves something, this moves something, this moves the whole arm, this moves the whole neck. So we want to select all of these, every single one. You need to select all of them. If you only select one of the legs, it's going to do some strange stuff, so you really want to make sure you select both of them. And same with the arms. You don't need this bone, just the shoulder. And as soon as you've got those, do not select the base, and just start to move them into place. Now this comes into probably the most important part of this process. Where do you put these things? Where do these things go? It might seem straightforward, that's a leg, okay, put it over the leg, but there's some logic to this, and you'll see this reflected in how your models behave in the other side. And you might want to change things when you've rigged it. You might want to come back, or have to come back and play with the positions and make sure everything's okay, but generally you should just be able to scale this down. You want to scale the whole thing down at the same time. I look for the waist, so the waist is my first thing to look for, and that's the yellow line here. Now the waist on a human, you can feel where your waist is, it's just above your hips. So that's what I look at. Okay, this is the character's hip here, so just above the hips, probably be around about there. And that's probably a good... If your character has a tail, it's really helpful, because you want to place this just over the tail. Just over it. Or, line both of these things up like that. So that's fine. That looks good to me. The next thing we want to look at is the neck position, which is this green line, this line here. We want to make sure that that is at the base of the neck. So here's a bit too high, right now. So we want to make sure that's there. So, but we don't want to move that. We want to again grab all of the bones. You want to make sure the last one you grab is the yellow one, the pelvis bone or the waist bone. And then you want to change your transform position. So right now, if we transform, it's transforming from the center of all the things we have selected, right in the middle. But if we come up here, you've got transform pivot point. We're going to change that to active element, which means now it's going to scale from the last active object that we selected. That's just going to help now as a scale it down, and that's how we're going to position this neck. So neck should be just like right at the base here, right over the shoulders. That should be great. And now we're ready to start moving the rest of the bones around and positioning them. So first we go back into the front mode. We're going to do the neck first. Now this last bone is the head bone, and that should be at the very bottom of the head, not at the top, not here, not over here. It should be right at the bottom of the head where you think it's going to move. It's not in the right position right now, but that's fine. We just want to make sure it's in roughly the right roughly the right location. So around about just under the ears is a good spot. A lot of the time, that's going to make your neck really small. This character has a long neck, so this is going here, but a lot of the time it's going to be like this. So this is fine. Next we're going to look at the legs. So the legs are actually not so bad. They're in a pretty good position, so I think I'm just going to scale them up. And that will be fine right now. Actually, maybe I'm going to push... This character's in a slightly different position than others. So if that's happening with your character and things look a bit too forward, just push the whole thing back a little bit. That's totally fine. And then I'm going to push the legs back a little more, and that's fine. You don't want to rotate them and get them in line, that's going to look horrible. You just need to keep them straight and flat. This looks mostly good to me. Now the arms, or first we'll do the shoulders. So the shoulders you want to put, you don't want to move them this way or that way, you just want to move them up and down. And we're going to put them here, and then we're going to scale, and that's going to put that into the position. Now, you generally want this ball here to be outside of your hips, or outside of, or just outside of it, you know, just on the edge. And that's going to help. That's going to mean that when the arms rotate down, they're not clipping through your body and stuff like that. So now we want to rotate the arm, and then to get this into position, we're going to scale it. It's hard to see sometimes where the elbow is. I can see a little bulge here, so I'm just going to move that into position. And then we grab the elbow, and we do the elbow. You don't, so right now I think this looks a little bit high, but the last thing you want to do is do this. You don't want to do that because it's going to mean your whole arm is more inward. If anything, if you really need to do something, you can turn them up, but I don't recommend it. I recommend just trying to get it into a good position there. Now, last one will be the hand bone for now, or we can scale this one down to get the wrist into position. And then we've got the hand bone, we'll scale that up until it's roughly the right size. So, as you can see here, there's 5 finger bones, but I've only got 4 on the character. That's fine, it's not a problem. We can deal with it. I'm actually going to rotate that down slightly just to get this into a better spot. And there we go. So now we've got the fingers. If you've only got 3 fingers or 2, you can just grab the finger that you don't want and move it out. That's fine. In fact, you can move all of these out. If you leave the middle finger, you can actually take those 2 out and just use this one to control all 3. That's totally fine. But you can also, it's better to have one for each finger if you can. So I'm actually going to remove one, and I'm just going to grab this. Generally, you don't want to move these away from the wrist. If need be, you want to scale them up. A good thing to think about here is that there's 4 bones here, but your finger really only has 3 bones. That's because this is the bone that's inside your hand. So this is actually the knuckle here. These are the knuckles. So you want to just keep that in mind when you position these, and you just want to move them. You can be a little bit rough with it, but generally you just want to make sure that that's covering there. You don't want to move the bones, just these tweak squares that they've given us. Scale that. You want it just to be just inside the finger. Alright, and then we've got the thumb. The thumb looks in a good position this time. There we go. That should be done. I'm going to scale this one up a little bit. Okay, so that's good. You can just ignore that finger for now, it's not a problem. Okay, I think we're done. So once you've got the armature into position and you're happy with where you think it's sitting, in fact, actually, I'm not happy with this right now. I'm going to move the legs down just slightly. No, I'm not. Once you're happy with it, you just select it all, and then you want to change back to a different rig. We go to the deform rig now, and you can see that's updated with everything else. Just to make sure, we're going to hit apply rig, and it's going to bring everything back, and it looks good. Let's solo the deform rig right now, and let's head over to the next add-on, which is the mesh online tool. Now this is the rigging part. This is where we're going to actually attach the character to the body. In the documentation it says just change this to 4, the influence bones, and then hit this button. But I recommend going one little step further and changing the voxel resolution to 256. It's just going to give you a little bit more resolution when it's applying the weights. You'll see it's going to look quite nice. So I'm going to now hit, we're ready to rig it, so we want to select the character, select the rig, and then you want to say surface heat diffuse skinning. Click it. It's only going to take a couple of seconds, no time at all. Just to quickly see it's worked, if you look back in the vertex groups over here now, you'll see this is all filled again. And now if I select the rig and press Control Tab, or you can go up here and change the mode, we can see that change back to the median point rotation. We can now see that the rig is working, looking quite good actually. This is not looking too bad. Okay, so there's some strange stuff. This is what you want to do. You just want to grab things, start moving them around, and see. Ooh, so the tail looks pretty bad. You want to look at the leg. The leg looks quite bad. Foot looks bad. Toes look bad. Let's check the fingers. Fingers are okay, but still a bit bad. Need some work. The head doesn't work properly. Oh god, this is terrible. It's not terrible. We just need to spend some time refining things now. It's very nice and easy. So first thing we want to do to clean up the rigging, you want to hide the rig. You want to select the character. You want to have your vertex groups open here. Select the pelvis. That's your first one. And then we're going to change to the weight painting mode. And as soon as we open this, we're going to see some colours on our mesh. And what this mode is a heat map that tells which bone is controlling which part of your mesh. So this is what we have to clean up if we want it to be a nice looking model. Now, this is where we're going to get into tails. If you have a tail on your character, if your tail is separate like this one, which is ideally it should be separate, it's just easier to manage. You want to just select the whole thing. I did that with L. I just hover over it and press L, or you can select one, press Control L. And then we want to go to vertex groups, remove from all. So we want to remove it from all the groups, but we want to keep all the groups. And now with all the tails selected, you just want to assign it to the pelvis. So assign pelvis, and that means that now when I go back to weight paint mode, the whole tail is controlled by the pelvis. This is exactly what we want. Ideally you want to also make sure your tail's in a nice position. This is probably not a nice position for animation and stuff. It's going to look very straight. Unfortunately you can't rig tails or extra objects with the other side in this way right now. So you have to just have it in one position. So I recommend, if you go to sculpt mode here in Blender, you can see the tools here, and if I scroll along, I'm going to see this funky looking one. This is the pose tool. This is a really amazing tool for exactly this kind of situation, where we can now grab and just give the tail, give it a nice little pose. Kind of acts as like an armature or a rig. And then we get it into a nice position. This is not perfect, but this is just for tutorial purposes. And that's going to look fine. So let's do that. Let's now go back to the character and go back to weight paint mode. And now we can see all this. Now, the next thing to note is that when this deforms your character, it's going to deform it on these weights. And if these weights are very sharp, like this sharp line here, or this missing piece here, or these sharp lines, it means it's going to deform it sharp. So you want it to be smooth. So we want to try and smooth this out. Luckily we have the smooth tool. I'm going to set the strength to 0.2 on the smooth tool, and then I'm just going to smooth over. This may be a bit big. Yeah, this is perfect. We just want to smooth it all out. Smooth, smooth, smooth. And already that just looks so much nicer. It means things are going to deform in a better way. And it's all going to work much nicer when we finish this. You just want to make sure there's, you just want to make sure there's no harshness going on. And sometimes you're going to need to remove some stuff. So I'm going to go through this now and just grab each of these vertex groups. Every time we grab one, we're going to see something new. Let's smooth it. You don't want to do it too much. You don't want to extend it. You just want to make it smoother. So this is adding a little bit, but it's not so much. It's mostly just smoothing it out. And if it's a little too strong, then you can just reduce the strength up here. Okay, so on the neck, I remember the neck looked quite strange when we moved it, so I'm going to actually paint the neck. I'm going to paint a weight of 0, and I'm going to remove anything on the head. Just reduce this down a little bit. You can take away a little bit more than you think, because when you smooth it after, it's going to come back a little bit. Effectively, for the head, you just want everything to be red. You want the whole head to move as one, effectively, for this rig. And as you go, you can test things before you move on. So I'm going to test the neck and head here. That looks really nice. That looks nice. And that looks nice. Perfect. Much better. And when it comes to hands, they're going to be a bit funky. I'm just going to clean up the hand here. I know this is the index, so I don't really need it to have a lot of the thumb there. I'm just going to paint back in a little bit of that weight here. So my fingers have got two separate parts here, so I want to make sure that this part here is the same. So I want to make sure there's red on here. So generally just looking, this is the calf bone, so we don't want much of the foot on there. So I'm going to take a lot of the foot away. At this point you can start to move the bones a little bit if you like. Just make sure you rotate them or move them from a specific point, like I did in here, and then just move them into the place you want them. So I'm probably wanting this. I'm going to just scale up this toe bone so it's in a better position for me. Okay, so the knees are way too low on the weight, so let's just hide the rig again. Alright, let's keep the rig this time. Let's turn on transparent mode. Let's go to the thigh and weight thing. Yes, the knees need to be, this needs to be higher. Here. Okay, this looks okay now to me. Let's just turn off the transparency for a second so we can see. There's a toe coming here, but we can fix that. Yeah, that looks great. That looks fine. So if you do see something like that where there's a big toe or a piece coming out, you can just leave it in that pose. Go to weight painting mode. Find where that is. I think it's on the foot. Yep. And then just paint 0, and this should snap back. There we go. Easy peasy. When you're happy with the weight paints and your character, it's time to switch back. We're actually effectively we're done. The character's rigged. We've got all the stuff working. What we want to do quickly is go back to the game rig tool. We want to choose the Unreal rig. This is the one we want. You want to switch parent armature, and that means that now if I go to pose mode, it means that this now controls everything. So now we want to go to the final add-on, Improbable Geometry Process. This is where we're going to be able to export our character. So first we want to select both. And before we export, we want to just do one quick thing. We have these extra finger bones. What we want to do is just tab into edit mode, and you want to delete those bones. It's okay if they're missing, it's really not a problem. The naming will work everything out. Okay, so now we can export our model. Before you export, you need to save the file, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it just as a coyote. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to say coyote out and slash. That means it's going to be placed there. I'm going to call this coyote ODK version 1, just in case we have to do another test. Select that, select both things, and then press export GLB, and now it's done. Once you've exported the GLB, you want to head over to the documentation. You can find that via your dashboard, getting started, and come down to the features and guides and avatars. In here we have all the different things we need. So the first website we need to go to is the MML tools GLTF exporter. You want to drag and drop you want to drag and drop your character in there. You should see it. Looks good. Turn off the debug, and then we can hit use sample animation, and now we get to see everything working in real time. So we can see the tongue here is coming out, but otherwise this generally looks quite good to me, and this means it's working. Now this, you need to take it to the software because the rotations that come out of that come out of Blender are not correct. So we need to now export this one, and that's going to give us that back. This is just the final step, and then you want to import that GLTF. Now if you ever import it into Blender GLTF, you'll see these balls. It's confusing and annoying, but to stop that, you just, when you import it, just go to this side here, side panel, and it's got a few different options here, but we've got one, disable bone shape. That's all we want to do. Import GLTF, and then we have the correct rig, and you can see the rotations of each of these bones is different than what we had, and this is the rig we need. So we can, if you want to take this character and put it on here, it's very easy. It doesn't matter because this is the same character, but just in case you do, you can delete this one, select this character, leave everything as it is, and in the modifiers on the armature, delete this and select the new armature. You're going to want to press Shift S, and it's going to bring up your wheel, cursor to selected, select the character, Shift S, selection to cursor, and then you want to select the character, the rig, and press Control P, keep, transform. And that just means now this is all working, and as you can see, if I go to pose mode, this rig now controls this character. So we now have the correct rig with the correct rotations, correct everything in Blender ready. So now if you had to add an object, if you had traits you want to add, now you can add the traits. So if you want to add a hat, you can place the hat here, select the hat, select the rig, Control P, and you want to say with empty groups. And now if you look at the hat has an armature and it has all the vertex groups. To make sure it follows the vertex groups, because right now it's parented but it doesn't do anything, we need to select the head bone. You can search for it here, head, select that, tab into edit mode, select everything, press assign, and now that will move with the head. Won't give a problem again. Just to prove that this all works, I'm going to grab everything. We're going to go back to the exporter. I'm going to call it version 2. I'm going to export the GLB, and I'm going to drag that now. And now I'm going to drag that one in here, and as you can see, everything works just as it needs. Tongue's fixed, everything is looking good.